you will know that our last couple of sessions have actually surrounded marriage, purity, and the different complexities that go along with that. And so, coming on today, I wanted to come back to complete these segments and to also continue to bring you forth newfound wisdom. All right. So, without going too far back, we discussed and examined a lot of the complexities that typically present themselves in marriage when you bring forth trauma and you have not come together with in the union from a healed place. And so the complexities that surround men typically is the lack of the ability to be emotionally available. And that trickles down into a lot of different problematic areas within the marriage itself. And then for the women, the complexities typically stem from the inability to be able to respect and to provide respect to her husband. And so, with that being said, these are the things that stem from a lot of different childhood traumas, be it that you didn't grow up in a household with two parents, whether or not you've seen the type of love or relationship, even that is supposed to be exemplified within a marriage. So, if you don't see that growing up, then you typically are going to have a hard time exemplifying that. So, it's one of those things where you understand where you say, my environment, you're a product of your environment. That's exactly what that means. And so when we dive into the purity aspect, you should be preserving your temple. You should be requiring people to show up for you, because if you require people to show up for you, then you're more likely to receive that overall attainable goal of having a healthy, wholesome marriage and it being founded on the right foundation. So, outside of those dynamics of you learning and growing and resolving those traumatic experiences before you begin to enter into a marriage or a union, then while you're exploring those things, you're doing the work. And I like to tell people, you don't bring 50-50 to the table. You should be willing to bring 100%, because in that 100%, that means that you are not looking for a person to make you happy. You're not looking for a person to just boost you up or feel stroke your ego. You're not looking for those things because you're 100% confident in who you are. Hi, welcome in. And so the complexity with that, when you do not come from a place of healing or you bring in baggage into a relationship, you actually are now just trauma bonded. And so today we're going to continue with that narrative, and I'm going to give you 10 ways that you can show up in your marriage starting off. So, the first way is that you need to be present. If you are not emotionally available to your spouse, then you should consider not being in a relationship, because that's a part of a relationship. You need to be emotionally sound and emotionally mature enough to have conversations that need to be had as they come up and come along. So, making sure that you're present. Welcome in, guys. I will address the comments at the end of the video because I do want to make sure I get everything out, and I will definitely shout you guys out. So I appreciate you showing up and supporting this platform. And then the second thing is you want to be respectful. When you show up in marriage, you want to be respectful. Yes, women are called to be respectful and honorable to their husbands. However, there is also a culprit for the males as well. If that male is demanding that respect, he should be providing in a loving and emotionally supportive way, in an attentive way to his wife, so that she feels safe to honor, to respect. It's not an excuse for you to dishonor, but at the same time, it makes it that much more conducive for that woman to be able to bring forth those things that she's supposed to as a wife when he's doing his role, and vice versa. For that male, if you are respectful and you are honoring your husband, it makes it that much easier for him to cherish you and to love you the way that you are supposed to be loved as it's been instructed. The next thing is you want to be kind. So, yes, after the dopamine wears off, because we all know that you go through that honeymoon phase and then things start to happen within a relationship, but we're talking about marriage. Marriage, you don't get to just cut it off because you say, okay, well, I'm done, or I've had a bad day. I really don't like you. Okay, you don't have to like me, but you're in it. So, being kind. So, that means not taking those jabs that are going to be regrettable later down the line. You don't say things to tear down someone. So this brings a verse in mind, the one that reminds us that you are to, as a husband, when you're cherishing your wife, you're supposed to love her as Christ loved the church. So much so that he was willing to give himself for her. I don't think a lot of men understand what this means when it comes to the cherishment of their wives. And just like he was willing to give himself up, that means you're not living like a bachelor. That means also for the woman, you honoring and being respectful to your husband means that you're not living like a bachelorette. So, yes, we're not stroking egos. We are literally talking about the different complexities and so why so many marriages have so many different issues when they start. It's not peaches and cream after that honeymoon phase. Why? If you identify the characteristic traits that were present during the dating phase, during the engagement phase, then all of those different things would have been spoken about. And this is where I'm talking about when it says that you need to show up with that 100% so that you're emotionally sound, so that you're emotionally ready to handle these type of different challenges and maneuvering periods of your marriage, because it's not going to be the same when you are entering in as it is when you start to incorporate children. We know that that's another dynamic shift. So you have different seasons and different phases in marriage. And so being kind requires that, requires you to be emotionally mature, emotionally available, emotionally attentive, and emotionally considerate of your partner and your spouse. Okay? The next thing is be forgiving. So you're not going to get everything right. You're not going to be 100% because you're human. So that's an unrealistic expectation that many bring into marriage, thinking that, okay, well, there's never going to be a time where I'm going to screw up or they're going to screw up. You're lying. Stop lying to yourself. You're going to screw up. You're human. You're going to screw up as a parent. You're going to screw up as a child. You're going to screw up as a spouse. You're going to screw up on your job. You are human. So give yourself that grace, but also give your partner that grace too. Now, I'm not saying if it's a habitual offense and things like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I didn't say be a doorstep. So clarify that. But I'm saying that you should have the heart posture to forgive. So if you're expecting your spouse to forgive you in your inadequacies and in your flaws, you should be willing to give the same to them. Okay? So be forgiving. Next is be accountable. I was given this download by the Holy Spirit the other day as I was driving. And I'm like, oh, I never looked at it like that. But an accountant gives an account. An accountant looks at everything that's coming in, everything that's going out, and they're making sure that the money that's going out is reaching the destination. The money that's coming in is being appropriately distributed how it's supposed to be. There's a consideration that's taking place throughout the whole process. And with that accountant, they're holding things accountable. So, accountability in marriage is imperative because you don't want someone to just feel like a doormat. You're supposed to be vowing to do all of the things that you are equipped to show up and do. If you're not ready to do that, don't take the vow. If you're not ready to be held accountable for your actions, don't commit. If you're not ready to go through things with someone other than yourself, and you not be the primary person that the focus is on, because it's two people involved in a marriage, it's not just one. And so if you have this idea where it's all about you and you're self-centered, marriage is not for you. And I consider you, I would encourage you to go forth and do that work. If you do feel like, okay, well, one day I do want to get married, but I have this tendency about myself. And in all of my previous relationships, I've had this situation or circumstance that has always allowed the person to leave because of my selfishness, my inability to put others' needs before my own. And so that's what that means. So you have to be held accountable. Next is you have to be loving. Yes, you have to be loving. Being loving requires you to love someone other than yourself. You're loving someone other than yourself. How about that? It's not just glitz and glam. Yes, you have to put forth the effort. Love is an action word. I tell people this all the time. And when I was doing psychosocial therapeutic services, I would tell my clients, based off of their emotions, they thought that it was an emotion. I tell them no. Love is not an emotion. Love is not an emotion, it's an action. You have to choose it. So, just like you choose to be sad if someone offends you, you also can choose to love. You can choose to forgive. It's an action, it requires something of you. Love is linked to a lot of different things, but what you choose is going to warrant how that relationship and that dynamic is. If it's a loving environment, then you're not going to be keeping records. You're not going to be holding grudges. You are going to be forgiving. You are going to want to be kind. You are going to want to be supportive. You're going to want to do all of those things because that's what love brings forth. It's linked. It's all connected. It's a connectivity there. And so be forgiving. So you want to be forgiving, you want to be accountable, you want to be loving. And then next, you want to be of value. You don't want to just be someone that's there. You're not in a marriage to just be a lump on the log. If you can't show up and do the things that are required of you as a husband or as a wife, you probably should not consider being a spouse, because it does. It requires you to be of value. And you being of value means that you're upholding your portion of the responsibilities within this union. So as you learn how you are supposed to be valuable, as you put forth the effort, as you make the decision to continue to love, to continue to grow, to continue to evolve, because you're not going to be the same person you were when you first met 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line. It doesn't work like that. You change, you grow, you evolve, just like you do individually. As a child, you are not the same as you were when you enter into the toddler phase. As a toddler, you learn to be mobile. You learn to speak. You learn to express yourself with words. You're no longer crying and waiting for people to figure out things. So if that's where you are emotionally and within your ability to exemplify and communicate with others effectively, you should probably not consider marriage until you get to that phase, because you have to bring value. Your value matters within a marriage because it is not a one sided relationship. Instead, it is two people coming together to create a new structure. This is why the compatibility needs to be there. This is why the understanding needs to be there. This is why during the engagement phase, and like I said, I did a couple of segments, a couple of sessions ago that was talking about what to expect, what you should be identifying during the engagement phase. And I'll just run through them. You should be addressing those red flags. You should be addressing the things that stand out to you that make you question that person's character. And you need to have that discussion to see if it's something you're willing to accept, if it aligns with scripture, and if it's something that should be rectified, or if it's something that is just a deal breaker. Because it's better for you to cut it off before you even commit to something, and then down the line, now you have these regrets and now you're locked in. Do the work. Work on yourself. And so the next thing is you want to be intentional. I can't tell you how many times you hear spouses talk about one another not being intentional. Oh, she just looks at me like a paycheck. Oh, he just thinks I'm his maid around the house. Be intentional. You have to be intentional in you cherishing. You have to be intentional in you exemplifying respect. You have to be intentional with you bringing forth what needs to be brought forth within that marriage. And so if you know that your wife is struggling after you have children with her appearance, you cherish her. You pour into her. You motivate her. If you know that she packed on the pounds, rightfully so, because she just brought forth life, encourage her by asking her if you want her to working out together, walking together. Because the number one reason that women carry excess body weight is because of cortisol. Same goes for men, but women are naturally, we're built different. We're supposed to be cushiony for those babies to be able to do what they do in there. And so if she's struggling with that, you have to find a way to be intentional to lift her up. You have to be intentional for her to feel protected, to feel provided for, to feel loved, to feel cherished. All of those different aspects of herself that she was willing to sacrifice so that you could have offspring. And so that is, a part of being intentional. Intentionality means a lot. And it's just like with that woman, if she sees that her husband is experiencing a period where he's not feeling respected, she has to be intentional about how she's choosing to ensure that he understands that she is very respectful of him, that she does want to honor him, that she does want to grow with him, that she does want to continue with him. So that's a part of that process of being intentional. And as I was preparing for this message, one of the things that stood out with intentionality is it aligns with the complexities that are present within marriages. So when you think about intentionality, an unavailable, emotionally stable, unavailable male cannot be intentional. He does things out of transaction, meaning I do for you because you do for me. Or I'm going to attribute this because it makes me look good. A spiritually immature male cannot bring forth mature spiritual male behaviors. So if this is something that you're seeing occur repetitively within the dynamic of your dating phase, your engagement phase, you can't expect a person that's unemotionally available to show up during the engagement phase and be emotionally available. They didn't do it during your dating phase. So by the time you get engaged, it just continues to be the same narrative. And so you continuing to exemplify those behaviors is going to only keep you stagnant, spiritually speaking. And as you do evolve and you spiritually mature into becoming emotionally available and able to communicate and love and cherish and exemplify all the things that a husband is supposed to be, then your wife will naturally open up to you. She will naturally want to respect you. She will naturally want to honor you. She will naturally just do all of these things that she's called to do, but easier. Because once again, the complexity that's linked to this particular portion of being intentional is that ability to be emotionally available, emotionally attentive, emotionally aware. Being a protector and provider means that you are willing to show up emotionally, physically, spiritually. Okay? And so that woman's going to feel safe knowing that you want to and you know how to emotionally provide for her spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. All of those areas. So being intentional. And then the next is being proactive. You don't want to just get into a cycle of showing up and, every time something goes down, then you want to say something. No, you should be being proactive. You should be having these conversations throughout the course of your marriage. It should be a time where you're sitting down, you're discussing the things that are going well within your relationship, and you're discussing the things that need improvements. This is a part of healthy communication. This is how you eliminate unwarranted conversations or just things coming out of the blue, because nothing really comes out of the blue when you think about it. It doesn't come out of the blue. You literally have had these characteristic traits the entire time, but you're just now having a problem with it because now you're fed up with it. That's what happens. And welcome in, guys. I will shout you guys out at the very end. I just have a lot of things I want to get through because I have a little time constraint. And so you want to make sure that you're having these proactive conversations so that way you're able to work on the things that are going to grow your marriage, not kill it. So as you're working on these things, you're being proactive. You're not being reactive. You don't want to be reactive. A reactive person means that they do not have the capacity to identify within that skill set that's needed to be able to flourish in marriage. It requires you to ask questions. It requires for you to accept criticism. It requires for you to be able to be spiritually mature as a wife and as a husband. Okay, sweetie, I understand that. Okay, well, me going out in the evenings and, not, being considerate of that the fact that I'm not home when you're here and you've expressed that you like for me to greet you when you're here, that's being spiritually mature. That's considering the needs of your husband as he brings that concern to you. Or it's something as simple as, hey, honey, when it's that time of the month, I really get sluggish and, it will really take a load off if you did the dishes, if you did the laundry, if you help with the kids. It shouldn't be a question. You should do it and you should be proactive about it. The next thing is you want to be faithful. It sounds cliche, but you would be surprised at how many people have not understood that when you're in a relationship, it is different from you being in a marriage. In a relationship, if you get tired of it, you can cut it off and move on. In a marriage, don't play with it. You are committed to that person. I don't care what the world says. On this platform, we uphold law, heavenly law. And if you can't commit to that person and remain faithful, you shouldn't be in it. If you know that you have characteristic traits of cheating, don't get married. Go run the streets and do whatever you want to do, but don't get married. And I'm saying that sarcastically. I'm not really saying that I agree with you going and running the streets, but what I'm saying is you do not go forth with knowing that you have this inability to commit to a person and tarnish that person's heart. Have enough dignity and self-respect for yourself to not do that, because that is a stain. When you cannot be faithful to your spouse within a marriage that does something that everything it's a million and one things you can do wrong in marriage, but when it comes to adultery and infidelities, that's the number one culprit that couples are, they struggle with. They can't move on. It will never go back to being the same way that it was before that offense was committed. So being faithful, first and foremost, requires you to be honest with yourself. If you know you don't have characteristic abilities to remain faithful, do not move forward with requesting someone's hand in marriage, and do not move forward with accepting that person's proposal. I'm going to say that again. If you do not have the ability to move forward and be faithful, characteristically speaking, if you have a past of cheating, do not go and ask for someone's hand in marriage. And if that person has exemplified cheating tendencies once, twice, red flags, once is one time too many. When it comes to this subject matter, one time too many is too many. One time is too many when it comes to faithfulness. If you can't be faithful, it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be. You got some things that you need to iron out, and I'm not going to be your victim. Do not ignore the red flags when you're dating, when you're in the engagement, if that person does not have the ability to commit to you and only you. Because if they want to, they will. You shouldn't have to ask. And it just reminds me, are you the person that asked the question and the question was answered, and then you got one, and then down the line something came up? Because if that person wanted to, you wouldn't have had to ask. They would want to. They know. They have the ability to choose what it is that they want. You choose to get up every day and go to your profession. Why? Because you get something out of it. It's tangible. But with a marriage, you have to choose to show up every day, regardless of the circumstances. And so this is that part where you have to make sure that you've considered that before you move forward with thinking that or expressing that this is something that you think you're ready for. Examine those areas. So the next one is be honest. Be honest with yourself. It's just like being faithful. If you know that you don't have the characteristic ability to remain faithful, if you know that this is something stemming from a traumatic childhood experience, or you just are not that type of person, do not go and waste someone else's time. Be honest with yourself and be honest with the other person. Be honest with the other person. Honesty kills a lot of different things that can stem from just lies and deceit and manipulation down the line. Because, yeah, you may get away with it, but what's done in the dark always comes to the light. This is why it's important for you to be faithful. You never know how things are going to come to the top, how things are going to come to the surface, how it's going to be found out. But if you're not doing it, then you don't have a worry. So being honest with yourself and remaining faithful is what you have to do and exemplify within marriage. And then the last is be excited, guys. You should be excited to be with the person that you have been given, that you've been favored to receive. Do you know how many people are lonely that would love to be in a position of someone that is married? And instead of them working through the narratives, if there's no infidelity, because like I said, there's a big one. Infidelity, I'm not going to tell anybody to stay. I'm going to tell you to pray about it and do whatever our Heavenly Father leads you to do in that moment, because you just never know the dynamics behind that subject matter. But I will say that when it comes to situations and circumstances where there has not been any infidelity, a lot of times it just falls because you're not excited. When that honeymoon phase ends, You lose the ability to connect. When the children are grown up, you don't know each other because you didn't take the time to continue to be excited within your marriage, within your dynamic, within your household, within that connectivity that you've been supplied with through marriage. So being excited is imperative, just like being honest, just like being faithful, just like being secure, loving, kind, respectful, honoring. All of those different things are what are required when you are in a marriage. And so it's not just the glitz and the glam. This is the raw stuff that people don't want to talk about. It's the raw stuff that when you're out in the restaurant, you're smiling at each other, but by the time you get in the car, you want to call each other every name in the book. That's not respect. That's not love. That's not cherishing. That's not any of those things. And so you're giving the enemy a leeway for him to come in and just to do even more damage. So you have to show up. It requires you to be present. And I'm grateful, um, you know, that you guys are here. And I'm going to give a rundown of this list because that's it. But 10 ways and then 2 bonuses that you show up in marriage. And those things are: you be present. You need to be present. You need to be respectful. You need to be kind when it comes to you having problematic issues or occurrences. Are you finding things out? Because we always expose things, but it takes a lifetime to get to know a person, and you still never know everything about a person. I don't care how long you've been with them. You don't know everything about a person, even your spouse. And so be kind, be forgiving. You want to give that same grace that you want extended to you. So it's that golden rule: treat others as you would have them do unto you. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So be forgiving and give that grace. Be accountable. Take accountability. Just like I said, that accountant is examining everything that goes out, everything that comes in, everything that's going out. They're making sure it gets to that destination. Everything that's coming in, they're making sure that it's invested in something. They're not just letting it sit there and rot or just waste away. They're taking account, and they're also making sure that everything is balanced. That is what your accountability requires in a marriage. Accountability requires you to balance your credits and your debits. What are you putting in? What are you taking out? You cannot just be a giver. You cannot just be a taker. It's supposed to be a two-way street. It's a give and take for it to have balance. You can't have all the weight on one side of a scale. It doesn't work like that. It's going to be imbalanced. So be accountable, be loving, because with love means you're going to put forth that action. Love is not an emotion. Love is an action. You have to choose to love. You have to choose to continue to love. You have to choose to want to love. You have to choose to desire to love. All of these aspects require something of you in marriage. So you have to choose that. Be of value. You have to be of value. You can't just sit there like a lump on a log thinking that you're supposed to be served. That's not what marriage is about. I don't know who lied to you, but I'm here to tell you that's not what it's about. Okay? 20 years in, it's not. You don't just get to sit there and be pretty. That's not what it's about. You can be cute all you want to, but it's not what you're supposed to do. You're not just going to sit there. You have to put forth value. You have to bring something to the table. You don't just go eat. This is not a meet and greet. You don't just show up and there's food on the table for you. No, you have to put work in. You show up and you exemplify what your value is. Okay? You have to be intentional. Be intentional. Show up with the intent. That means putting forth thought. That means you're required to put that person's needs in consideration and exemplify that through action. You're being intentional. If it's a conversation that needs to be had, initiate it. You're being intentional, because in intentionality, you're going to do the next thing, which is be proactive. You're being proactive. You're acting on things that need to be addressed, concerns that need to be brought forth, areas that need to be rectified. All of these different things you're going to be proactive in because you want action within your marriage. You want things to go well. So that means that you have to nurture it. You have to water it. You have to weed it. You have to seed it. You have to do all of that. It's like, okay, I might need to kick that one. But you have to nurture it. If you want it to grow, it requires work. Okay? So be proactive. And then the bonus, well, no, this is number 10. Be faithful. That's simple. It sounds cliche, but you'd be surprised at how many people think that they can just go out here and run around on people and still have a great marriage. No, It literally destroys a person. It literally changes the DNA makeup. It causes people to question their self value. It causes them to question their appearance. It causes them to just go through so many different changes physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, all of these different aspects because people fail to be faithful. If you can't be faithful, don't ask for that hand in marriage. If that person is not being faithful or you can't be faithful, don't accept that proposal. It's that simple. Be faithful. You have to be filled with faith. You should not be entertaining anyone other than that person that you've committed to. You're forsaking all others. That is what that means. You're forsaking. That means you are eliminating, stopping it at the door, not even idealizing it. You're not entertaining it. You're not buying into it. Okay? You're not. So be faithful. The bonus is be honest. That pairs with faithfulness. If you can't be honest with your spouse, something's wrong. If you can't be honest with your spouse and they are responsive and it's always a blow up, they're emotionally immature spiritually. Okay? That's something that you need to work on. That's that proactivity. You need to work on that. If you can't be honest, then you can't be faithful. Honesty and faithfulness go hand in hand. The cheating, the lies, the deceit, the manipulation, all of those different things, they come out of dishonesty. So you don't want to have that in your marriage. So you need to be filled with honesty. Your relationship should be built on structured foundations, which means honesty needs to be present. And then the last bonus is be excited, guys. Be excited because that's a part of what marriage is supposed to be about. Being excited that you have someone to spend life with, that you have someone to procreate with, that you have someone to grow with, you have someone to be your cheerleader. Okay? You have to put forth the effort and the desire to want to be there. Nobody wants to be in a room with somebody that's always a Debbie Downer. Don't do that crap, especially in your marriage. You don't do it amongst your coworkers, and those are the people you need to be keeping at bay. Or the people that don't mean you well, you want to entertain them. No, be excited about your spouse. Be excited about your spouse. Show up for your spouse. What things can you be working on? What ways can you show up emotionally, physically, spiritually? Are you covering your spouse in prayer for the things that they are going through that are hardships? That's being proactive. That is being loving. That is giving your spouse that favor as a wife. Are you being considerate with your wife as a lesser vessel? And I mean emotionally because that's what that means. Are you considering her emotions? Are you showing up for her? Are you intentionally showing up for her? Are you exemplifying that through action and not just word? Because it's one thing to say things, but it's another for you to do. And so that's the ways that you can show up in marriage. All right. I am grateful for each of you that have taken the time to sit on this live with me. I will be back on with another segment. I have been talking about marriage a lot, so I'm pretty sure that that's probably what we'll continue. And I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a quick shout out now, and because I do appreciate everybody that took the time to comment. But I did, like I said, I wanted to get through that for time constraint reasons. I'm going to grab my glasses and we'll go down those lists. Okay. All right, let's see. Let's see who we have in here. So for the shout outs, like I said, I'm grateful for each of you that have taken the time to sit here and go through this segment with me. I will try to post it. It'll probably air midnight for those of you that are just coming in. We were talking about ways that you show up in marriage. So tag someone in this content, and that way they'll be able to receive it. And as always, if you're led to like, comment, or subscribe, then I appreciate you for doing so. All right. So I am grateful for at Shayar Punjab Da. I am grateful for at Caroline Fosket or Foskett 4248. And I'm grateful for at Lil Mo 3, even though you came playing in my comments. Don't come in here with that crap. I'm grateful for at Chubby U9E. Okay. And then I am grateful for, oh, well, thank you, Caroline Fosquet, 4248. I'm grateful for that comment. Thank you so much. Um, I'm grateful for at Willie E1J. Yeah. I'm grateful for at Ralph Burgo J7D. I'm grateful for at him. They call me. Um, even though you wanted to come playing around in the comments as well. Yeah, some people just have nothing to do these days. All right, at El Marie Losper, uh, I2W, I'm grateful. Hello, I'm grateful for your presence as well. And I'm grateful for at Am Dan. All right, so I'm grateful for you guys. And for those of you that are new to this particular page, I am grateful for your presence, but we have actually made some tremendous impacts around the world. And so I always like to end my videos with shouting out these areas. And so if you are from one of these areas, including the US, please drop a heart. All right. So thank you for watching from Brazil, from South Korea, from Canada, from UK, from Philippines, from India, Uzbekistan, Germany, South Africa, Ukraine, Vietnam, Trinidad, Tobago, Japan, Indonesia, Turkey, Australia, Iraq, Algeria, Bangladesh, Russia, Belarus, Colombia, Mexico, Italy, Syria, and Jamaica. So if you are from any of those places, I am tremendously grateful for you because it is outside of the region where I am, which is the US. Um, so yes, I'm grateful for you guys. I pray this message has given you inspiration and that it's pierced you so much so that you decide to do something other than what you've already done within your marriage or considering marriage or in your engagement phase, wherever you may be, whatever reason that you were led here. I'm grateful for you taking the time to be obedient and receive this message. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon on the next segment. All right, guys, I love you and take care.